So now let's go ahead and complete our tree sandwich. We've got the back, right? And then we've got the middle right here. So let's put on the top. All right, so remember this is supposed to be fall foliage. So I'm going to go with all my nice reds and yellows and oranges and stuff like that. Not so much with my green, but maybe there's a little bit of green in there still. Who knows, right? So I'm going to be going now in successive layers of lightness. In other words, I'm going to start with dark and let it get lighter. So for instance, what if I was to just start with a little bit of this red right here, right? It's a nice dark color. Maybe tempering it with just, let me see, what's the opposite of red? Opposite would be green, right? So maybe just a touch of that blue and then just a touch of that yellow because that's what makes green. There we go. Now my red's a lot more natural looking than it was when it was just the fresh red. A lot more interesting. And just pop, 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 pop. And because I want to do lots of different colors in here, I'm going to leave myself some space and not do everything in this red. Just little bits. Right? So here we go. A little bit there. And if I go into my sky windows a little bit, oh, that's okay. But you know what? Don't lose them. And here's another thing. If I go over my trunk, that's okay. Remember, this is supposed to be like a tree sandwich, right? So you're supposed to be able to go over that trunk because the trunk might be behind things. And you wanted that trunk to be there first because that way everything's natural. Just like the sky didn't care what was in front of it, the trunks don't care what's in front of it, right? And the leaves, they don't care about being on top of that trunk. Very much like nature. Here, you can see that I'm not like going pom, 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 pom really hard. I could, I guess. But I am using the fact that this bristle brush is not real smooth, right? It has all these little bristles that are going every which way here. And I'm using that to my advantage. It's kind of like if I had a pencil, but that pencil had 20 different tips on it. You know, wouldn't it be so much easier to get my drawings to have more texture if I had a pencil with 20 different tips? Sure it would, and that's part of the power of paint over, let's say, a painting instead of drawing. You know, it's a funny thing to say, like, well, what's a painting, what's a drawing? But just basically, I would say a drawing is something that's done with one tip. So that could be with a pencil or with a pen, a sharp pen. Whereas paint is something that's going to be done with a brush, right? That's a painting. And they're different because we're getting all our details and our differences in different ways. If you were just drawing, then you would get all that differentiation. You'd have to draw every little pinpoint thing. You'd have to sit there and draw. With the paint does it for you. So you got to allow it to do it for you. Okay, so once again, when I want to mix up more red, I'm not worried about matching that red like perfectly. But we don't want to cover up all our darks. That's really, really important. We really don't want to cover up all those darks. Okay, so now into this red that I've made, why not? I'm just going to take some yellow right here. In this case, it's the warmer yellow. And I'm going to get more of an orange color. And in fact, you can see I haven't mixed it completely. That's another thing about the opaque paints and mixing is instead of mixing things solid, 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 right, until it's one homogeneous color, leaving it marbled is usually that same sort of freshness to your paint in the way that when we were mixing on canvas kind of did. Oh, you can see that's much, much brighter. Just like before, I don't want to kill all my darks and I don't want to kill all my reds. Right? So each successive layer is probably getting smaller. So like there was mostly the dark, right? And then came the red. Kind of a lot of red still, right? And now with this orange, not near so much. Probably more red than orange. And as I get successive layers of brighter colors in here, then there'll be less and less and less of them. Let's really make these trees pop. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and grab a bunch of white. I can just mix it into where I've been working at anyways, right? Might as well. And to this, I think first I'll start with, red. So back in with this red, who knows, maybe a little crimson. I haven't been able to use much of the crimson. Making a nice, look at that, a nice pink color. Watch out though, if I get too pink, maybe these are going to look like blossoms instead of fall foliage. So maybe a little bit more red than that. We'll stick with this red here. Okay, and here we'll get a nice collection of red over here right next to it. Once again with that marbling thing, that way things can be broken up and I can grab from either area and get that down. Here, let's do a little tester, see how that is. Yeah, that's not too bad. And to that, what I could do is I could also, once it's light, just like with what I'm going to do with the turtles down here, I could add color back into it. And because that the paint is, semi-transparent, the white would show through and give it a brighter sort of color. Okay. But very important here, right? Less and less of it. And so here, maybe a little bit here, almost like an accent. A little here. And you notice I keep following the same patterns. That's kind of an important thing too. I've just found that that works a lot better because of course remember you're following the structure of the tree. Now, not slavishly, like here I can just kind of bust out into a new area here, right? And that's good. That's giving me a little bit of depth as it's coming forward. But still, kind of, yeah, because remember, that's where we've determined where their branches. They're here, they're here, they're here. So, of course, the foliage is going to follow where the branches are. The tree has structure after all. And you can see I'm getting less and less of that blue back there. I don't want to lose those entirely. I don't want to lose my darks entirely either, right? We got to save some areas of darkness. When I'm doing my pat, 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 I'm not boom, 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 hitting it real hard, right? Just letting the lacy little characteristics of the brush take over and give me all this nice little bit of detail. Oh, so important. You can see a little hint of that branch right there. Don't kill it. Don't kill it. You made it. Don't kill it. Who knows? Maybe while it's wet, I might even come back and reclaim a few branches here and there, right? See how I'm using that back of that brush just to scrape through the wet paint. Wet and wet is very, very powerful technique. Careful as you're going through and doing like a little bit of this extra little scratching. Because, you could do like way too much of it really quickly and really easily. That's it. That's enough. But that little bit, it's the little bits that make the difference. Okay, now I'm going to take and make a really nice bright yellow to sort of finish ourselves off here. So a little bit of white, a little bit of this nice cool yellow, the lemon yellow, very bright yellow. Okay. And that little white will just really help it to not be too transparent. Okay. Okay, now for me, that yellow is really kind of taking things over a little bit, and the pink is a little bit too much like blossoms. So I want to get back into red and dominating it a little bit more with red, but I want it to be bright. hopefully I haven't killed all my darks. So I think at this point I'll just take a little bit of this straight red right here. Just a little bit, and just not everywhere. Just a few places, just sort of strategically. Breaking up the yellow a little bit, breaking up the pink a little bit. That's going to bring me back to having nice red fall foliage on these trees. But it's not just one sort of color of red. It's all these different colors going on. Now, if I lost all my darks, could I add some darks back into it? Sure. But maybe, be a little careful, right? Because remember, the dark was in back of everything. And so even though we started off mostly that dark, right? It's still, now it's showing very, very little of it, but it's still there. But okay, let's see. I've got my same little bit of red still on my brush, doesn't matter. A little bit of that dark. So let's say this area here got a little bit muddy. I could just selectively add, boop, 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 a little bit more dark. Oh, not too much, right? Stop. All right, boom. That was only like 2, 3 little boop, boop, boops, and that was enough, right? To bring the darks back into that area. Here, we'll do another one right here, really. Boop, boop, boop. That's it, right? Okay, so that's pretty good.